First of all, a warm greeting on Lakar. So, today, on this very special occasion, I'm going to tell you a story, okay? And the name of the story is The Happy Prince. And the writer is a famous British author by the name Oscar Wilde. And if you think you are not familiar with this writer or the author, let me remind you that this is the same author who wrote one of the most beautiful story that you have ever read. That is The Selfish Giant. Okay, now you remember you have read this story, The Selfish Giant, when you were in lower classes. And the story was a very beautiful, which carries a very strong message of sacrifice and generosity. Similar to this, The Selfish Giant, this particular story, The Happy Prince, also carries a very beautiful and strong message for the entire humanity. Okay? So, without further ado, let me begin my story The Happy Prince by Oscar Wilde. So, in this session, I want you to pay attention to listening. You just listen to the story and try to get the overall summary of the story. Okay, there's no need for you to look at the textbook. You just listen for a few minutes. Okay, yes. So, let me start. Okay, once upon a time, very far from now, in a city very, very far from where we are staying now, there was a beautiful statue. Now, do you know the name of the statue? Any guesses? No? Well, the name of the statue was the Happy Prince. Okay? The Happy Prince. Now, this statue is different from all other statues you have found. Okay? Yes. Why this is a different statue? Because this beautiful statue has so many precious stones and gems, which is very expensive. Okay, yes. So the statue has a sapphire eyes. All these eyes are made of sapphire. And his entire body is covered with the thin leaves of fine gold. Not only that, the statue is carrying a sword, and the handle of the sword is made of another precious stone, that is ruby. So that is how the statue looks. And that statue is in the center of the city. Looks very beautiful, and the people in this city are, what should I say, proud of this beautiful statue, the Happy Prince. Okay? Yes. So one night, a swallow, a bird, came. Why? Because the bird was on his way to Egypt. You know Egypt? Okay, yes, he was on his way to Egypt to join his friends. He had been flying from his home and arrived at the city. Now he was tired and wanted a place to sleep for the night. So he was new to the city, and he was wondering where to hold the night. And then he said, "Oh my God, where shall I put up?" He just looked here and there. And guess what? Suddenly, the swallow saw the beautiful statue. And then he said, "Well, well, I will put up here. It is a fine position with plenty of fresh air. And I have a golden bedroom. Wow!" So the sparrow laid on the feet of the statue. Just as he was sleeping, a large drop of water fell on him. He was surprised and said, "What a curious thing! There is not a single cloud in the sky. The stars are quite clear and bright, yet it is raining. And then he continued sleeping. Then another drop fell. After some time, another drop. Now, suddenly, the sparrow looked up. And do you know what he saw? Yes? Well, he saw the eyes of the happy prince filled with tears, and the tears were running down his golden cheek. His face was so beautiful in the moonlight that the swallow was filled with pity. And then he said, "Who are you?" The happy prince said, "I am the happy prince." Then the swallow said, "But why are you crying? You are the happy prince, but why are you crying?" Okay, yes, the statue was crying. Can you imagine a statue crying? Yes. So do you know what is the reply? Yes, the sparrow asked why the statue was crying. Okay, let us listen. Then the statue said, he started telling a story. So listen to this story. Well, when I was alive and has a human heart, I did not know what tears were, for I lived in the palace where sorrow is not allowed to enter. My courtiers called me Happy Prince, and happy indeed I was. So I lived, and so I died. And now that I am dead, they have set me here so high that I can see the ugliness and the misery of my city. And though my heart is made of lead, yet I cannot choose but weep. So that is what the statue said. Understood? Now, not only that, the statue was trying to say something to the swallow. And here he goes. Far away in the little street, there is a poor house. I can see a woman. She is embroidering flowers on the satin gowns of the queen's maid of honor to wear for the next god born. Her little boy is lying sick and has a high fever. He is asking his mother to buy him oranges. But the mother does not have anything to give. Why? Because she was poor. So swallow, swallow, little swallow, will you please take out the ruby from my sword and give it to the woman? At first, the swallow refused. Why? Because the swallow was not going to stay long. He was on his way to Egypt. But in the end, seeing the happy prince sad, he agreed to do him the favor. So the swallow picked out the ruby and flew towards the poor house. He dropped the ruby on the table and fanned the little boy's forehead with his wings. The woman was very happy, and the little boy finally recovered. So you see, the happy prince, he saw the suffering of all the people in the city, and he was trying to reach out to all the poor people. So that was one example. Okay? Yes. Now, the swallow, after giving the ruby to the woman, he came back to the happy prince and he said, what did he say? It's curious, I feel quite warm now, although it is cold everywhere. And the happy prince said, yes, it's all because you have done a good action. The little swallow began to think and finally he fell asleep. So you see, the sparrow started feeling warm, and what was the answer Happy Prince gave? The Happy Prince said, yes, you feel warm in spite of the cold weather because you have done a good action. You got it? Okay, yes. Now let us read further. The next day, the swallow flew down to the river and had a bath. He visited all the monuments and was ready to go to Egypt in the evening. Okay, now he had got a full day. Now he just roamed the city and tried to visit so many places. And because in the evening he would be going to Egypt to join his friends. So the evening came and he went to the happy prince, maybe to say goodbye. Okay, yes. Now let us see what the happy prince said. The happy prince said, "Swallow, swallow, little swallow, will you please stay with me one night longer?" Okay, yes. The happy prince wanted the swallow to stay with him one night longer because the happy prince might be having some favor or one work. Okay, yes. Now, what did the swallow say? The swallow said he could not stay because his friends were waiting for him in the Egypt. Okay, yes. The sparrow was stuck because he was on his way to Egypt, and suddenly the sparrow came across this happy prince who requested the swallow to stay one night longer. The happy prince once again said, "Swallow, swallow, little swallow, far away across the city, I can see a man in a garret." Garret is a house. He is finishing a play. Play means drama for the director of the theater. But the problem is he is feeling so cold to write anymore. Why? Because there is no fire in his home and he is also feeling hungry. So that is what the happy prince saw. Okay, yes, and we all know happy prince was very generous and he always tried to help the people who are in need. Now let us see what would the happy prince do. The swallow had a very good heart and she said, okay, yes, the swallow was about to go to Egypt, but he had got a very good heart. Okay, yes, the swallow and said, okay, I will wait with you one night longer. So he asked, do you want me to take another ruby for that young man? Okay, you remember the first time when the happy prince requested the swallow to take the ruby from the sword and give it to the woman? Okay, now this time the prince wanted to help that person who was having a problem with the firewood. He did not have money to buy the firewood, because of which he was not able to continue his play. Okay, yes. And then the sparrow asked whether, he wanted the ruby to take away. And let us say, the prince said, alas, I have no ruby now. So you see, he had only one ruby, very precious stone, and he gave it to the woman who was having a problem. Okay, now let us see what did the prince say. My eyes are all that I have left. So you see, you remember the eyes? The eyes of that statue were made of, what should I say, sapphire. And sapphire, it's a very precious stone, wasn't it? Okay, now he was about to sacrifice, he was about to give his eyes. Okay, yes. So such was the heart of that statue, the happy prince. They are made of rare sapphire. Rare means something that is not available, so it's very expensive, which are brought out of India 1,000 years ago. So he ordered the swallow to pluck out one of them and take it to the playwright so that he could sell and buy firewood to finish the play. So let us see how generous he was sacrificing. What did he tell the swallow? He told the swallow to pluck out one of his eyes. So what will happen if we pluck out someone's eye? You become blind. Okay, so such was the height of what should I say, generosity. Okay, yes. And let us see what the sparrow said. Swallow said, dear prince, I cannot do that. The swallow was surprised. He was afraid of plucking out the eye. Okay, and then the swallow began to weep. Okay, he must be so touched by the sacrifice of this prince who was ready to sacrifice his eye in order to solve someone's problem. But the prince was determined. He had already determined to help people who were in problem, and he was ready to sacrifice everything he had. And then the prince said, "Swallow, swallow, little swallow, please do as I command." So he was giving this command. So, the swallow did not have any choice. He had to listen. Okay, so reluctantly, the swallow plucked the prince's eye and flew away to the young man's garret. So the young man was very happy, and from that, what should I say, the sapphire, he bought firewood for his home, and he was able to finish the play on time. So you see, so that is the second episode where the happy prince was trying to help. Okay, yes, he was trying to give away everything that he had. And look at the swallow. Okay, he was about to go to Egypt, but he was asked by the happy prince to stay one night longer, and the swallow agreed. The swallow also wanted to be a part of this noble work. Okay, yes. So gradually there was some kind of a friendship. Okay, yes. So let us read further. Again, the next day, the swallow this time flew down to the harbor. So harbor is a place where we have ships and boats. He sat on the mast and watched the sailors working. He was very happy. Why? Because he would be going to Egypt in the evening. But he did not know what the prince would say. But at the moment, the swallow was very happy, okay, that he would be going to Egypt in the evening, and he would be joining his friends. So the evening came, and once again he went to the prince. He went to the prince to bid goodbye because he was going to Egypt. Okay, now let us see. So the first night, the prince requested the swallow to stay one night longer. Now let us see what would the prince say. For that, the prince said, okay, now prince must be having one more favor. Okay, because the statue, he cannot move and help the people. Okay, yes. And then he said, "Swallow, swallow, little swallow, will you not stay one night longer?" So he was requesting the swallow to stay one night longer. Okay, yes, but the swallow was eager to go to Egypt to join his friend. Now let us see what would the swallow say. The swallow said, "It is winter now, and snow will be here soon. In Egypt, the sun is warm. So the city is having a winter very soon. That's why the swallow and his friends, they were going to Egypt. Why? Because Egypt is a warm country. You got it? Okay, yes. So the happy prince said, in the square below, there is a match girl. She has let her matches fall in the gutter. Her father will beat her if she does not bring some money, and she is crying. Please pluck out my other eye and give it to her." So you see, the prince was able to see another person who was in problem, and this time there was this little match girl who was selling match. Okay, now she was crying because all her matches had been, what should I say, fallen in the gutter, and the father would beat her if she did not bring some money. Now the happy prince was, what should I say, about to help her. The swallow said, "I will stay with you one night longer, but I cannot pick out your eye." The swallow was touched by the kind of sacrifice the statue was giving. You remember, the statue had already gotten rid of one eye. Now he had got only one eye left, and that too he is requesting the swallow to pluck that out. And now the swallow gave one condition. Okay, yes, I will stay with you one night longer. That is okay, but I cannot dare to pluck your eyes. You would be blind then. The prince said. The prince was not, what should I say, worried about his blindness. Okay, and the prince said, swallow, swallow, little swallow, please do as I command. So once again, the prince was determined to help. He was determined to solve the problem of the people in his city. And he gave this command to the swallow, and we know how, what should I say, good, how kind-hearted swallow is. So the swallow had to listen because it was the command. Okay, yes. So the swallow this time reluctantly plucked out the eye and slipped the jewel into the palm of her hand. Her hand means the girl who was crying. Okay, and then after giving this, the swallow went back to the prince and said, what did the swallow say? Now you are blind. I will stay with you always. So you remember there was some change in the way the swallow, what should I say, do. Okay, yes, in the beginning the swallow was eager to go to Egypt to join his friend. But now his friend, maybe the statue, he was totally blind. So in such condition, as a good friend, do you want to desert? Do you want to leave your friend? No. So that shows that the swallow was very kind. He was a very good friend. A friend in need is friend indeed. You remember? Okay, yes. So the swallow, although his friends were waiting for him in Egypt, decided not to go to Egypt anymore. Why? Because he said that the prince was blind, and this is the moment where the prince needs swallow the most. Okay, and then the swallow said, now you are blind and I will stay with you always. I wish I could have a friend like swallow who will stay with you through thick and thin. Okay, yes. So you think about your own friend. Okay, yes. And the prince said, no, no, little swallow, you must go away to Egypt. Okay, the prince, okay, he did not say, yes, yes, I am blind and you try to stay with me and help me. He didn't say. Okay, yes. In fact, he said, it's okay, I'm blind and I will take care of myself, but it's important for you to go to Egypt to join your friends. So the prince said, no, 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 swallow, you must go to Egypt. Okay, and the swallow said, no, I will stay with you always. Now, the swallow was so much dust. He did not want to leave his friend all alone, blind. And then he said that I will stay with you always. And then what did the swallow do? The swallow slept at the prince's feet. Did you understand? Okay, yes. The prince was able to help, and the swallow was accompanying him, giving him company in this noble work. And you can also see the kind of friendship. Both these friendship, they were ready to sacrifice. Okay? Yes. Let's read further. The next day, the swallow sat on the prince's shoulder and started telling stories of what he had seen in strange lands. So you see, this swallow had gone to visit different strange lands, and the statue, he cannot move, isn't it? So he started telling stories of the strange lands, and the prince sat. Prince was not that much surprised. And what did the prince say? Dear little swallow, you tell me of marvelous things, but more marvelous than anything is the sufferings of men and women. There is no mystery so great as misery. Fly over my city, my little swallow, and tell me what you see there. Okay, yes. So the prince was still, what should I say, determined to help people in his city. So, since he could not go, he requested the swallow to fly over his city and see, what should I say, report to him what he had seen. Okay, yes, he was interested in what should I, solving all the problems the people in his city have. Okay, yes. So, you see, the swallow was a very good friend of the prince. He was very faithful. Okay, yes. So the swallow, as per the request of the prince, flew over the great city. Okay, yes. And then what did the swallows see in the city? The swallow saw the rich people making merry in their beautiful big houses, the rich people enjoying, while the beggars were sitting at the gates. There was a huge gap between the rich and the poor. And then he went further. And the further he went, what did he see? He saw the children starving. There were lots and lots of people. Children were, what should I say, hungry. Okay. And then he went back to the prince and told what he had seen. So, as a good friend, very faithful friend, he did whatever prince requested him to do. Okay. And we know how kind the prince was. Do you think the prince would be happy to hear these sad stories? No. Okay, he had sacrificed everything. You remember what were the things he sacrificed? He sacrificed his ruby, he sacrificed his two eyes, which are made of precious stones. Okay, yes. And now let us see what would the prince do. The prince said, "My little swallow, I am covered with fine golds." So you see, the whole body is made of fine golds. Okay, now he was talking about this fine gold. So he requested the swallow, "You must take it off leaf by leaf and give it to the poor." So he requested the swallow to take off his gold leaf by leaf and give it to the poor. So we know the swallow would always listen to his friend like a very faithful friend. So the swallow, leaf by leaf, the swallow pick off till the happy prince was dull and grey. So if you take out all the gold leaves, then you would become an ordinary statue, isn't it? So the happy prince became dull and grey. And then after taking all the gold leaves, he flew and gave it to all the poor people. And you see, these poor people were very happy. Okay, they could eat and they could do so many things. Okay, yes. Now we see the happy prince, that once beautiful statue was no more, because the statue does not have the two beautiful eyes, the statue does not have the ruby sword handle, and now all the gold leaves, they were all taken out, and the happy prince is not beautiful anymore. Okay, yes, that we know that the people in the city, they look at this statue because the statue look happy, the statue look very beautiful, and the people in the town, people in the city, they were proud of this statue. Okay, because the physical beauty of that statue is what the people are looking for. People normally, they don't look for the inner beauty, they are always looking for the outer beauty. But if you are obsessed with the outer beauty, now we know the happy prince, this beautiful statue, is no more. It had become dull and gray. You got it? Okay, yes. Then the snow came. Now the winter, okay, the snow came. The streets look as if they were made of silver, because there'll be lots and lots of snow, and the place would look like a silver white. Everybody went in fur coats, I mean, okay, yes. The poor little swallow, that swallow grew colder and colder. Okay, yes. So the swallow, he was supposed to go to Egypt because it was warm there. But because of his friend, because of the prince, he remained, isn't it? But he would not leave the prince. Why? Because he loved the prince so much. Okay, yes. So he was, the poor swallow was ready to sacrifice. Okay, his happiness for the sake of this prince. Okay, yes. At last, he knew he was going to die. Now the swallow knew that he would not live long because it was cold, and the poor swallow was feeling very cold, and he had just enough strength to fly up to the prince's shoulder once more. Okay, yes, the swallow was cold, the swallow was weak. Okay, yes, but despite that, the swallow tried his best to fly up to the shoulder of the prince. Okay, and then he murmured. He did not have the strength to say loudly, and then he murmured. He murmured means in a low voice. And what did the swallow say? The swallow said, "Goodbye, dear prince. Will you let me kiss your hand?" Okay, yes. Now the swallow said goodbye the prince, and he requests the prince whether he would give him permission to kiss him on his hand. And what did the prince say? Okay, the prince thought, okay, now the swallow wanted to go to Egypt, and now the prince had given everything he had. Now he did not have anything to give, even if he wanted to help. So it was right time for the swallow to go. And then the prince said, "I'm glad you are going to Egypt at last." So up till now, the prince had stopped the swallow. Okay, yes. "You have stayed too long here, but you must kiss me on the lips, for I love you so much." Okay, and the prince was so glad that the swallow stayed with him and was able to fulfill his whole desire, isn't it? And you remember the swallow requested the prince to let him kiss on his hand. But what did the prince say? The prince requested the swallow to kiss on the lips, not on the hands. Why? Because the prince loved him so much. You got it? If you love someone, then you kiss on the lips. Okay? Yes. So the swallow said, "It is not to the Egypt that I'm going." And the swallow said, "No, no, no, I'm not going to Egypt." And then the prince was surprised. "And then where?" And then swallow said, "I'm not going to the Egypt, but I'm going to the house of death." The house of death means, so you know, the swallow was about to die. He knew that his death had come. So, but he was able to sacrifice his entire time with the happy prince, isn't it? So, before he died, he kissed the happy prince on the lips, and he fell down dead at his feet. Oh, the poor swallow, isn't it? Who was actually going to Egypt. Instead of going there, he started helping the happy prince. So the swallow was able to fulfill the wishes of the happy prince, isn't it? Till his death, isn't it? Now the swallow had died. Very good friendship. The friendship who was able to sacrifice without expecting anything. Okay, yes. So the swallow died, and he just fell dead at his feet. Now, the next morning, the mayor was walking in the square below with the town councillor. So the people who were the head of the city, they were going for a morning walk, and every day they used to look at the statue and they were proud of the statue, isn't it? Now this time we know that statue, that beautiful statue, was no more. He had given everything to the poor people, isn't it? Now this time, seeing the statue, the mayor was surprised, and he said, "Look how shabby the statue looks. The ruby has fallen out of the sword. His eyes are gone, and he is no longer golden. In fact, he is little better than a beggar." Okay, yes. So look at the mayor and look at the people in the city. They were just obsessed with the physical beauty. As long as the statue is beautiful from outside, they appreciate, they are proud of, but they did not know the inner beauty. What happened to all these beautiful things? We know that that statue, even though it is a statue, has got some heart. The statue, the happy prince, started giving everything he had to solve the problem of the people in the city. But the people in the higher authority, they were not bothered about all these things. All they were bothered was the outer appearance. So as a result, what happened? If you don't like the what should I say, the person, if something is not beautiful, what do? You just kicked it away. You just get rid of that thing. So the same thing happened to the Happy Prince statue. The statue, which was once beautiful, now had become dull and very bad, isn't it? So next day they just pulled the statue and they dismantled the statue. So that was the thing. They did not see the beauty, inner beauty. They did not see the friendship. They did not see the sacrifice and the mercy of that great statue. You got it? So such was the plight. The happy prince, no more. The swallow, no more. So that is the reality. I'm sure there are so many messages that you can take away from this story. Okay, yes. So the people in the city, they get rid of the happy prince, and the bird were not there, but the God. They saw the inner beauty. They were not looking for the outer beauty. They are looking for the people who has got good heart, kind heart. So what did they do? They just call both the happy prince and the swallow, and they got a very special place in heaven. So with this, we have come to the end of the story. How did you like the story? Did you like it? Okay, yes. Now, after listening to the story, I want you to write your own opinion about the story. Okay, yes. First, did you like the story? Yes, you just write why you like the story. If you think you don't like the story, you write no, I don't like, because you write the reason. Did you understand? Okay, that's first question. And the second one, you are going to write which character you like the most. Okay, which character? How many characters? We have got the people in the city, we have got the swallow, we have got the happy prince. So out of these characters, which character do you like the most? And you just write the reason. Did you understand? So that is just an exercise. Please don't look at the textbook. Okay, I told you in the beginning, this is just a listening exercise. You just listen to the story, try your best to pay attention. I may mispronounce some words here and there, but I'm not after each and every word, but basically I just want you to write your opinion about the story. Okay, yes, you write your own story, opinion. Okay, yes, there is no correct answer. If you like the story, you say I like, you write the reason. If you don't like, you say no, you write the reason. So that is the first question. And second one, I told you, out of all these characters, which character do you like the most? And you just write the reason why you like. Okay? Yes. So I'm sure you have enjoyed. I'm sure you have enjoyed as much as I've enjoyed telling you the story. Thank you.